China is saving American manufacturing right now. On the screen, this is the first 5-axis benchtop desktop machine. If you don't believe this, I know this is controversial, but stick around and let's talk about it. So I'm going to address a couple machines that you guys wanted me to talk about. We're also going to address some more industrial machines and the tried and true Bridgeport. So I've got a few points. We're going to talk about 10 years ago, how you got started in manufacturing at home, the current state, which I covered in the previous video. We're going to compare some industrial machines with some of the hobby machines. We're going to discuss more on the hobby machines and how the non-prohibitive cost enables tons of people to start manufacturing at home, and also the new polished hobby machines that are enclosed with all these safety features, how that can get your kids involved with manufacturing, which brings them into manufacturing earlier, and we bring manufacturing back to America. Then to sum it all up, we're going to address some concerns, some cons with these new hobby machines, and we'll wrap it up at the end. So I had a couple comments that said, well, you need to address the Bridgeport. Everyone needs to start on the Bridgeport. Okay, so let's go back 10 or 20 years ago. This is like an easy track, proto track, whatever. This is a CNC Bridgeport. The topic here is CNC only for the reason that a lot of these other machines, the apples to apples would be, you hit go and watch them. You don't have to be a manual machinist, which is some of the, the pros about the new hobby machines, is that you don't have to know tons about machining. You have to know a little bit, but not a lot to start with these machines. So we're going to compare apples to apples with a CNC Bridgeport. So let's not talk about inflation, but you could buy a CNC Bridgeport for $5,000 to $10,000 back in the day. So let's assume the back in the day price. $10,000 CNC Bridgeport. This does have a pneumatic drawbar, which does help that kind of apples to apples with some of the other machines that have tool changers and things like that. So you've got a machine that takes 3-phase power, weighs a couple thousand pounds. You have to get it in your shop. It's also very wide. Look at how wide the table is. You're talking, you need roughly 6 feet of clearance on this table because it does move. So you've got a machine that takes up several feet, 3-phase power, several thousand pounds, and a pretty junky controller if we're being honest. You do have the rigidity and the horsepower of the Bridgeport spindle, and don't get me wrong, the Bridgeport is truly the American pioneer. That's not the topic of this video. I'm not downplaying the Bridgeport at all. I'm just saying this was basically what you had to start with back in the day, and it's a lot better now. So I know I've covered a lot of other machines like lasers, milling machines, 3D printers. Now we've even got water jets that are kind of desktop, benchtop. I mean, this occupies a 4-foot by 2-foot footprint, and it's a water jet for home. This is like an awesome time in manufacturing. So the current state, we have all these machines. You can see all these tabs pulled up of machines I'm going to talk about. I am going to address specific hobby machines that you guys wanted me to talk about. I will note, I left out the Sherline machines. I looked at Sherline a long time ago. Most Sherline machines are lead screw, and if we're going to be CNC, we're not dealing with the backlash of the lead screws. They do offer a ball screw machine, but it's like $8,000, which is almost as much as the Tormach. I'm going to leave them out. I've also looked at TIG in the past. Also going to leave them out. Both of these are okay platforms, but I think everything we have here is better than that. So if you wanted to see those, sorry, but I'm going to leave those out. Also, I've picked specific machines that you've asked for, and then specific machines that fit certain criteria. If you don't see your machine on here, I may address it later, so leave a comment if you'd like to see another specific machine. And probably a disclaimer, I did back the Nestworks C500, so I'm a little biased to that. I'm going to kind of explain why I picked it in this video, but also try to be non-biased to compare it to the other machines. So we're going to start with the literal elephant in the room, the Tormach PCNC 440. This machine has been around a long time, and probably about 10 years ago got a lot of people started in CNC machining because it takes up a lot less space, single phase power, and not as heavy as the standard Bridgeport. A lot of people, granted the Bridgeport's awesome for its versatility, but they really don't need all the workspace of the Bridgeport, and it just takes up way too much space. So this machine's been around a while. The $9,000 price tag literally just gets you the machine. No stand, no enclosure, no tool changer, no controller. It is literally the machine. And you can kind of see some of the options over here. If we want to compare an apples to apples, and this is not really apples to apples, but the premium package comes with the stand, the enclosure, the tool changer, the coolant system. You're looking at $28,000. And you still get a stepper motor and a very low horsepower spindle. So everyone's like, oh, get a Tormach, get a Tormach. Now, I'm not going to deny the higher end Tormach machines at $20,000, $30,000, $70,000 are great machines and comparable to, say, HAAS or SYIL, which we're going to talk about later. But the bare bones $9,000 Tormach only has a 560 watt spindle. Now, it does weigh 600 pounds. It has a decent workspace. NEMA 23 steppers, just like everything else on this list. I'm going to say no to the Tormach. I think it's a great option, but I'm not really sure it's the best for me. So next machine, the AnoleX. I don't really know how to say it, but anyway, this is the 4030 Evo Ultra, and this is with the upgraded NEMA 23 closed loop steppers and the 1500 watt spindle. I think this is an incredible value. It also does have a controller with macro functions, which I think is killer. It does have its own drive for the spindle, so it's not like the old router spindle where you had to, ramp the spindle up with a knob with like 3 options and that's it. This is a variable speed VFD spindle. It does have a pretty generous work area, 15 by 12 by 5. Ball screws, linear rails. One thing I don't like about these machines, and you'll hear me mention this again, there's no chip control for the linear motion systems, so you're going to get crud in that. You're going to have to re-grease it, clean it out. It's kind of going to be a mess. I would personally be looking for way covers on all axes to keep that junk out. There are a few users that are getting really good results out of this machine, and I think it could be upgraded to something awesome with an enclosure, maybe some air blast, coolant, something like that. For $1,700, if you're willing to tinker with the machine, build an enclosure, things like that, I think this is a pretty killer machine. So I've talked a lot about the Nestworks C500. This thing right now, the Kickstarter price is $3,100 just for the machine, I think. Obviously I'm biased toward this one. So you've got an 800 watt spindle, coolant, tool changer. This thing, to me, this is why I picked it. Fully enclosed, it's got a probe. This is just like a turnkey ready to go machine. I'm not really going to say anything else about it. I will say that Nestworks did not grant me permission to use videos of the new machine yet. It is unfortunate. I'm not mad. I told them, I was like, I totally understand. You guys have a couple patents you've applied for, things like that. I get it. We don't want to release anything. I don't want to hurt them as a company because I think they're doing a great job. That's all I'm going to say on the C500 because I'm going to post so much more content when I get the machine. So we're going to move on. Next we have the Makera Z1. At this price, or even at full price, $1,200, this is a phenomenal value. It is a small work area, only 150 watt spindle. I need to make a point on that here in just a minute. It is enclosed. It does not have coolant. It does have auto probing, auto leveling, and kind of a drawbar type spindle. It's the same spindle as the Nestworks, I think. We don't know that yet. But you pull this handle down right here to change tools, so it doesn't have an automatic tool changer, but it does have a quick drawbar system. It's not like an ER collet like some of the other low-cost machines. They are using the cast frame from some of the other Makera models that we'll talk about later. And they do have 4th axis support. I think this is a great machine, and we'll talk about that later, but there have been some pretty awesome things done with this machine already. So if you want to get in at the absolute best for your money, if you want to start out with a kid with some cheap machine, I think this is a great machine. So on the topic of the spindle, a lot of these spindles, like a router spindle, the Nestworks is kind of the same deal. The router spindles are open loop. They don't have any speed control whatsoever. You turn them on. If it's 800 watts, it's going to pull 800 watts. With the Makera and the Nestworks and some of the other closed loop spindles, so let's take the Z1 for example. It's a 150 watt spindle. Well, if you go back to our list, it is the lowest power spindle on the list, but there have been some pretty awesome things done with this. So if it is a closed loop spindle, it has speed monitoring. That means your surface finish is going to be more consistent. The closed loop spindle carries more weight than it actually shows on paper. Long story short. So the closed loop spindles from Makera and Nestworks, and maybe some others, but these are the ones I know for sure. The speed control being closed loop is killer. Although the Makeras are the lowest spindle power, they have been able to put out some really good stuff. They are ball screw. They're not technically linear rail. They do have some chip control. Like I said, for a machine at this price point, like you can see right here, the rails are open, but there is a slight cover. But anyway, they use like these linear rods that are hollow. They're not quite as rigid. But like I said, at this price point, to get you started, this is a fantastic machine. Like I said, I'm not affiliated with any of these companies, but if you want to get in pretty cheap, this is a great option. So this is the Carvera Air, a little bit bigger, a little bit more capacity, a little bit more spindle power. Let me clarify also, the Z1 does use linear rails. The Carvera Air is what uses the hollow rods. So this is why the Z1 is able to do what it's able to do, because it's a lot more rigid with the linear rails. You do get ball screws on the Carvera Air. You get a larger work area, 4th axis support. Here's the tool changing mechanism that I mentioned. These are on all Carvera machines or Makera machines with no tool changer. So kind of a quick drawbar type spindle. You also do have probing and auto leveling, same thing, 4th axis support. I've seen some really good stuff with the Carvera Air. Honestly, at this point, if you don't need the work area, I think I've got to go with the Z1 at this point. I feel like if Makera uses what they've learned with the Z1 and adds a tool changer and maybe a coolant provision or even an air blast, I think they could be onto something. We're going to cover the Carvera with the tool changer in the larger work area, but if they could come up with some middle ground like the Carvera Air V2 with a tool changer and stuff like that, I think they would hit it out of the park. So this is the Carvera. You can see quite a large price increase. The Z1 is $1,200. This is $5,500. So I mean, it's quite a bit different. You do get, let's see, where's the tool changer? So you do get a tool changer system. From what we know about the C500, this is going to be very similar. Tool changer mechanism, it's the same drawbar type tool changer, except the Air and the Z1 are manual. This one's automatic. It does have probing, leveling, all that stuff. 4th axis support. This machine was kind of the pioneer to desktop machining. I think it was the first one to the market, and I'm not really sure its price is justifiable anymore. You still get the 200 watt spindle. You do get a pretty big work area. So if you go to the sheet, 14 by 9.5 by 5.5, this is a pretty large work area and 110 pounds. Pretty heavy machine. Does have a tool changer, no coolant. To me, the price is hard to justify at $5,500. So this covers all the 3-axis machines. I will give my final on the 3-axis machines. I think for cutting metal, I'm going to pick one of two machines personally. The Makera Z1 or the Nestworks C500. Now, granted, the C500 is 3 times the cost of the Z1. You do get a larger work area, and on a milling machine, the Z-axis capacity of the Z1 is really going to limit you. You have almost double the Z-axis capacity, and this right here is another big deal. Well, these two are big deals. Actually, these 3. We're getting into all kinds. The Nestworks is worth its money. So 270 pounds versus 38 pounds. I've seen what the Z1 can do at 38 pounds. Now, almost 10x that weight capacity. Multiply the spindle power by several, and also more powerful closed loop stepper motors, tool changer, and coolant. To me, this price difference is worth it for me. If you're 100% not set on cutting metal, I'm gonna go with the Z1 every single day. So let's talk 5-axis. Let me start off by saying I do think all of the new AI 5-axis machines, as they say, where there's smoke, there's fire. Well, there's a lot of smoke, but probably not a lot of fire. I do think if we're going to see a 5-axis machine come to market, it is going to be the X machine XM-100 that I've shown here. This is a pretty modern machine. One thing that does hurt you on the 5-axis is this very small work area, and for all of you inch people, it's basically 5 by 5 by 5, which is quite a bit smaller than any other machine on this list. One thing that's not mentioned, granted it does have a 2200 watt spindle, which is pretty killer. You're going to lose rigidity. So each motion system you add to a machine is going to take away rigidity. So you've got this rotating A axis, you've got the swivel C axis, and you've got X, Y, and Z like a standard milling machine. Every additional motion you add, for one, the opportunity to lose accuracy, and number two, the opportunity to lose rigidity. Now, this machine does have servo motors, which is theoretically stronger than stepper motors, and closed loop is closer controlled than a stepper motor. At this point in the game, this is non-negotiable for a machine that's going to be as defined as this. So you've got a tool setter, you've got a probe. This at this point's non-negotiable for me looking for a semi-production metal machine. It's got to have a probe, got to have a tool setter. Personally, for me, this thing looks cool. This tool changer that like folds out, I wonder if there's a better picture, probably not. This tool changer folds out. To me, this is like, there it is. This is just ridiculous complexity for a tool changer. If you have any experience with industrial tool changers, the more complex they are, the worse they suck. So the fact that this one swivels and has all this movement, to me, this is a bad idea. I get that it looks nice and keeps the magazine clean, but I don't like this. So here's some more on the motion systems. You've got some pretty beefy motion components in this, which you have to because it's 5-axis. You have to make up for the lost rigidity. Anyway, this machine is going to come in somewhere around the 280 pound mark, close to the Nestworks. To me, the lost work area, the questionable rigidity and questionable accuracy of the 5-axis, I think this thing's going to be more for trinkets, and you can do a lot of stuff on a 4th axis, and 5-axis is not really necessary. And especially for the hobby, this is really cool, but at almost double the price of the C500 or other 3-axis machines, I'm going to skip on this one. Now, not to say that you shouldn't skip on it. If you really want 5-axis, if you want to make intricate small parts, maybe this is for you. Personally, I don't think it's for me, but I will say it is revolutionary that we have a 5-axis milling machine coming to the market at under $6,000. I mean, that's just completely unheard of, and that's part of the reason why I'm making these videos. I don't think people understand how close we are to a manufacturing revolution in the market. So I also want to address some other comments. Bro, just buy a HAAS, buy a VF1, buy a mini mill, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's address that for a minute. So I'm going to discuss HAAS and SYIL. They have two very small 3-axis milling machines that have recently come to market. They understand there's a gap also. So let's buy an old clapped out VF1 for $10,000. First off, no. I get it. People are like, well, you need the experience of working on the machine. Okay, I already know how to work on machines, so that's out of the question for me. That doesn't matter. I understand these machines are going to be significantly more powerful. I know for a fact a HAAS VF2 will not fit through an 8-foot garage door. I've seen it. It's common knowledge. You have to take the machine apart. Regardless of that, these are, quote, garage machines. These are machines that are designed to go in your garage, just like a Bridgeport. But look at the price, and also look at, these are several $1,000-pound machines. You're not going to get one of these machines turnkey with coolant and everything, tool changer, all that stuff, optioned out. Granted, I know the starting price is low. You're not going to get one of these machines for under $40,000. To me, with someone that doesn't have any work, this channel is my experience of starting. I don't think this is the right way to go. And even buying a clapped out VF1, VF2 for $10,000, I don't really think this is the way to go. Now, are these machines significantly more capable? Yes. So you've got a machine for one, 7.5 horsepower. All of our other stuff's in wattage. So this is 5,600 watts and tons of torque. Also Cat 40, Cat 30 on the SYIL. These machines are just going to be a lot more rigid. These are truly production machines. I don't have any production work. The purpose of this channel and this discussion is for I don't know anything about CNC machining. I want to get started. Where should I start? Do not go out and finance a machine like this with no work. I wouldn't even go pay cash for it. You are pretty much setting yourself up for failure if you go out and buy something like this with no work or no experience. It's going to bite you. I would advise one of the other machines that I mentioned, understand how the machines work and start from there. So I want to go back to my initial topic. How is China really saving American manufacturing? So as a fellow, quote, kid, I'm not that old, but I'm also not a child. Let's talk about children. Would you take your 10-year-old and throw them on a Bridgeport? Probably not. But you would take your 10-year-old and show them a 3D printer and let them operate a 3D printer, right? So at this point, the reason China is saving American manufacturing is accessibility. So you could take someone with no experience that has only ran a 3D printer at this point and basically is used to downloading files off the internet and just goes and hits go on the printer. Well, all of these companies like Makera, Nestworks, all these Chinese companies are building a cloud-based file sharing just like Bamboo did and just like Prusa and all these other companies did, where you could go pull G-code off the internet, load your stock in, you get a machine that has a probe and a tool setter, put the tools in, measure the tools and probe the part, go hit go. With a machine like the Z1 that's totally enclosed, safe to operate, same thing. You could go spend $1,000 on the Z1, $1,200, whatever. Buy some tooling, load up some random G-code online, probe the part, and it's maybe gonna work. 10 years ago, this was totally unheard of. Now, if you start out with 3D printing, you understand machines and how they work, you could probably be really successful with a machine like this, having absolutely no experience. And like I said, 10 years ago, completely unheard of, completely impossible. You had to go to machining school to do this, or take a class, or just struggle through everything. The technology is definitely here. Now on the flip side of that, and I'm probably gonna have to make a video about this, CNC is not 3D printing, and there are lots of other considerations, and that's all I'm gonna say in this video. Please do not take my word and go buy one of these machines and just go hit go. You're gonna tear stuff up. So I'm gonna let this video play in the background. This is a video from Cinetronics on the brand new Makera Z1. This is the machine I specifically said you should probably get if you're a beginner or to get for your kid. This channel, I'm not affiliated with them, don't know anything about the channel, but they've done some fantastic work with the Makera machines, and this is a fantastic video showing the capability of the Z1. Now remember, lightweight machine, only weighs 38 pounds, 150 watt spindle. This is by far the weakest machine on this channel, and I'm going to specifically skip to where he uses the face mill. This is pretty incredible to see what's going on with these machines. That's why I'm saying, like, granted, this is not your HAAS, this is not a Bridgeport, but the fact that you can run this machine in your house is pretty crazy right now. And the fact that it's, you know, safe to use, easy to use, you could set your kid up on this machine just like with a 3D printer. This is the reason why these Chinese companies are going to bring manufacturing back to America. So we're getting close to the face milling part of the video that I specifically wanted to show. Here it is right here. I mean, just look at the surface finish. Now granted, this is a super small depth of cut, 0.1 millimeters, but look at the surface finish on this part. This just goes to show, this is obviously a tool that's not really recommended for this machine, but if you put these machines in the hands of someone that knows what they're doing with them, they can be extremely capable. And if this is, quote, the weakest machine on this list, the future's extremely bright for these other machines that we haven't seen yet, like the Xhorse, the C500, some of these other machines that are coming to market that I haven't mentioned. This is the lowest cost, weakest on paper machine, and you can do all of this with it for $1,200. To me, this is a no-brainer, and this is why manufacturing is going to come back to the US. I mean, you could outsource this part to China, or you could buy a machine and make it yourself at home. I know which one I'm going to choose. So in closing, I want to address a couple more comments that I think will come up. Well, these machines are junk, they're just toys. Okay, well, I just showed you a prime example of the capability. Now I get it, These are not industrial machines. They're not gonna last. That's why I have the SYIL and the HAAS pulled up. They're not 3-phase power, even though the HAAS is single phase. They're not beefy, torquey machines. You'll never be able to rigid tap with these machines. They'll have to thread mill everything. All I want to get across is the tools we have for manufacturing at home in the garage are more accessible than ever, and you probably need to pay attention. And if you've got kids that already enjoy 3D printing, like I said, go check out the Z1, check out the videos on it. Super capable machine, and please comment if you want me to feature more machines. I'm not affiliated with anything. All I am is a Kickstarter backer for the C500. I have no affiliation with that company at all. This is just my start to ridiculous manufacturing at home. I just want to have the most capability, and I want to show you the capabilities that we have access to now. So if you like this type of content, subscribe. Let me know what other videos you want to see. I think my next video will be how CNC is not 3D printing, because there are lots of differences and you need to know that going forward. So with that being said, thanks for watching. We'll see you later.